When Ethan confessed to me, Bella, who had grown up with him, stood to the side and laughed at me. Those limited edition shoes on his feet could cover your living expenses for a year. Do you really believe he truly cares for you? I did believe him. At the time I didn't realize that Ethan and I lived in completely different worlds. Until Bella's bracelet went missing. Ethan, along with everyone else, leveled mocking looks at me. His voice was mocking. You're short on money, you could have just told me. Why resort to stealing? My eyes turned red, the hand clutching my sleeve trembled uncontrollably. When I transferred schools, I blocked all of Ethan's contacts and left without a sound. But I never expected that Ethan, who'd always looked down from on high, would search for me for a full 7 years. After gym class, Bella's expensive bracelet disappeared. Without my knowledge, she had people rummage through my backpack. When I arrived, the desk was in shambles. She snuggled up to Ethan and cooed, "Ethan, Sarah is your girlfriend, tell her to give the bracelet back to me." Ethan and Bella had grown up together, everyone knew Ethan treated her differently. Even I had to admit that, more often than not, he and Bella had more to talk about. When they huddled together discussing those limited edition designer pieces, I could never get a word in. But this time Ethan didn't rush to pick up her thread. He quietly finished tidying my desk before looking up at her. His tone was airy, yet not dismissive. "What bracelet? I'll just buy you another one." The classmates were instantly stunned, each suspicious remark more extreme than the last. "What do you mean, did Sarah really steal it?" "It's not impossible. Everyone knows Sarah is famously poor, and she was the only one who went back to the classroom during PE. She could have fenced that necklace and had enough money for 6 months' living expenses, right? I heard her father had his leg broken because he stole something years ago." I froze in the doorway, as if someone had dumped a bucket of ice water over my head, my whole body numb with cold. I had never known that someone who greeted me politely as class monitor in front of others would speak of me like that behind my back. At that moment, someone, no idea who, suddenly called out, "Class monitor Sarah?" The atmosphere snapped taut. Countless eyes turned toward the door. I had done nothing, yet the sudden shame and embarrassment that rose up from nowhere nearly overwhelmed me. I clutched my sleeve and saw Ethan turn his head to look at me. Maybe it was my imagination, but I thought I caught a flash of derision in his eyes. I began to explain, but no one paid attention. The more I tried to explain, the stranger everyone's looks became. Bella's voice was light and soft as she said, "Forget it, I'm not short of a bracelet anyway." Bella generously told everyone that she had probably misplaced it by accident. That settled the matter. But I didn't want to be accused like this for no reason. As Bella turned, I grabbed her and was going to take her to check the surveillance footage. Bella tilted her head and looked at me, her eyes full of meaning. I expected Bella to refuse. But I never imagined it would be Ethan who stopped me. He gently stroked my hair. "Baby, it's okay now." In the past, when I was upset, Ethan would always call me that. But now, him saying it to me like this made me feel very suffocated. I didn't steal it, I looked up at him, my voice choking. "My dad came to bring me lunch." I briefly went back to the classroom during PE to drop off the box. I didn't do anything. I only went back to the classroom to put down my lunch. My dad had specially prepared it and brought it to me. He said it was my birthday today and that I should eat something nice. But Ethan didn't seem to care about what I said. He said it didn't matter, whatever I had done, he could take care of it for me. But why does it not matter? I clearly did nothing. How important is a reputation to a person? Didn't Ethan really know that? I insisted on seeing the surveillance footage. Ethan, who had been blocking me the whole time, lost his patience completely. He suddenly let go of my hand and gave a short laugh in front of me. The laugh was low and cold. Only then did I realize something was wrong. Bit by bit I lifted my head to meet his gaze. I saw the smile on his face. I saw the look in his eyes as he glanced over, mockery, the same barely concealed sneer everyone else wore. "Did you really not steal it?" His voice was scornful. "I remember you said a few days ago that you're short on money lately. and besides, the classroom camera only broke yesterday. Sarah, you really don't know? My brain rang with a long, ringing buzz. Somehow, at that moment, I suddenly remembered what Bella had once told me. She said, "You still don't understand, you and Ethan are simply not from the same world." Before, I didn't understand. In this moment, I suddenly did. Ethan, raised like a favorite among the stars, had prejudice against the poor carved deep into his bones. Facing the same matter, he would unhesitatingly believe Bella, who belonged to his circle. Ethan knew better than anyone how important reputation was. From the very beginning, he simply refused to believe me. A shrill bell rang. It mixed with Bella's laughter. In the chaos, someone bumped the table. I turned in a panic and watched helplessly as that lunch fell from the table. Food spilled everywhere, a glossy piece of meat rolled twice and came to rest at my feet, covered in dust and paper scraps. I stared blankly, suddenly unable to say a word. The last taut string in my mind snapped all at once. Ethan's voice continued in my ear. He said, "If you're short on money, just tell me. Why would you steal?" But I couldn't listen any longer. I shut my eyes and shoved him hard. When I looked up again, tears streamed down uncontrollably. "Ethan, my family is poor. But I would never steal from anyone." The autumn rain bit through to the bone. I hugged the lunchbox and sat on the bleacher steps, eating without a sound. There wasn't much left anyway, it was all spilled out. Ethan came over holding an umbrella, his tone restrained with anger. "What on earth are you running off for? Don't eat that lunch. Aren't you worried it's dirty? Sarah, can you hear me? It's just one lunch, is this necessary? I'll go buy you another one." Ethan rarely lost his temper with me. By the usual standards, I would have already leapt at him, claws out, ready to beat him into begging. But right now I just want to quietly finish this meal. I clutched the lunchbox and refused to let go, and I wouldn't share his umbrella either. Every time Ethan took a step, I hugged the lunchbox and slid a step aside. "Are you avoiding me?" For a rare moment, his face went blank. There was a second of silence, then Ethan took a step back, holding the umbrella. The umbrella hovered over my head, he stood out in the rain, watching me in silence. By the time I ate the last bite, the rain had come down hard. Ethan spoke, "About the bracelet, I will." "You don't need to trouble yourself," I cut him off. "I'll handle it myself." I said I'd help you, Ethan's tone held incredulity. "You handle it, how do you expect to manage on your meager allowance?" Hearing that, I actually wanted to laugh, but I couldn't bring myself to. "Think whatever you want." I carefully put away the lunchbox, then stood and started back. Ethan's voice blended into the rain, I thought I heard him call my name. But I didn't turn back. After that day, Ethan never came back to school. That was the last conversation we ever had. Bella dropped the charges, but the rumors did not stop. The teacher pushed up the glasses on her nose and told me sternly that she would investigate this matter to the end. When I returned to the classroom, someone saw me and reflexively shoved their wallet further into their desk. I froze on the spot. My nose prickled with a bitter ache. I had studied my way into this high school, secured first place in the grade, and never imagined I'd ever be treated like someone to be guarded against, as if I were a thief. On the day of the parent-teacher meeting, I saw from far off someone pointing at my father's back by the school gate and laughing. Their voices came in fits and starts. "Is that Sarah's father? I heard that leg is because of. Like father like son, like mother like daughter. Do mice pups dig burrows? Didn't Sarah take Bella's bracelet too?" In the cold wind, I saw my father's figure freeze abruptly. For the first time I didn't dare look up in front of my father. Rumors are terrifying. Those silent glances falling on you feel like 1,000 cuts. It was the most agonizing day I had. After we got home, my father smoked in silence for half the night. I cried and told him, I didn't steal anyone's bracelet. Everything you taught me, I've always remembered. My father didn't blame me, nor did he ask any questions. Only much later, with sorrow, he asked me, "Was it because of me that you were wrongly accused?" In the shadow, I saw my father smile at me once. "I'm sorry, Sarah," his voice was hoarse, "for making you, too, unable to hold your head up in front of others." He confessed what had happened back then. But in truth I had known for a long time. I was the child my father picked up. Dad had no means, and you happened to fall gravely ill. That year we scraped together everything, and we were still 1,000 yuan short. I watched my father sink into memory, the pain in his eyes one that years had never been able to dissolve. Dad really had no choice, but once it's done, it's done. Once that bottom line is crossed, the shame is hammered into your bones forever, you can never shake it off in this life. My father's voice grew smaller and smaller, dissolving into the night wind. In the end, I didn't know whether he was asking me or asking himself. He asked whether, if someone other than him hadn't taken me in back then, my life might be much better than it is now. My father's illness suddenly worsened. I tensed up, took leave from work, and didn't want to go anywhere. I just stayed by the hospital. When I came back from buying lunch at noon, I saw Bella at the ward door. I froze where I stood, my heart pounding. Bella had met my dad. Bella was with Ethan. In front of my dad's fried rice stall. I can't recall the details clearly, I only remember her asking in that both innocent and disdainful tone, "This kind of street stall is so filthy, how can you eat it? If you can eat it, are you going to force Ethan to eat it with you?" I saw Ethan take a bite, his handsome brows knotted. He chewed twice, as if he really couldn't bear it, and spat it out. My father was standing by the roadside. The wind bit through everything. He stared, stunned, at that group of rich boys and girls. That night Ethan and I had a huge fight. Snapping back to myself, I stared warily at Bella. "What are you trying to do now?" Bella smiled brightly at me. "Sarah, if you needed money you should have said so, being ill can't be put off. We're classmates, Ethan, and I won't just stand by." Then she handed me a bank card. "What do you mean by that?" "Uncle's illness, I know of a very good hospital. I can get you sent there. But that city is so far from here. The back and forth would be exhausting, wouldn't it?" The corridor smelled strongly of disinfectant and was very quiet. Bella and I stared at each other for a long time. She suddenly asked me again, "Do you know why Ethan hasn't been going to school lately?" "Because he feels ashamed. That proud, haughty temper of his, you should understand it better than I do. That's why I'm the one who came to see you alone today." Bella's voice was soft and gentle, like a cluster of tiny soft needles suddenly stabbing into my chest. A wave of pain washed over me again and again. My eyelashes trembled. In the ward my father's cough came in fits and starts. Like drums beating time to a summons. In that moment, everything before me suddenly dissolved into smoke. When the haze cleared, all that remained was this bank card that could save a life. "I need this money." I clenched the bank card hard in my palm. "Thank you. I'll transfer schools soon and accompany Dad to his appointments. I will pay you back this money, but I need a little time." Bella scoffed, "Who needs it? Goodbye." I didn't tell anyone about transferring. On an otherwise ordinary afternoon, we left the city for good. After we changed hospitals, my father's condition gradually improved a lot compared to before. After transferring schools, high school studies became intense. I was shuttling between the hospital and the rented room, but fortunately my fundamentals were solid, and I didn't fall behind. My father's condition gradually recovered. After entering university I took on part-time jobs and was unbearably busy. The money I borrowed from Bella back then, I used the bank card number she left. I repaid a portion on time each month and only paid it off after 2 years on the job. 7 years flew by. I never imagined I'd run into Ethan again. So when we met again, I was completely unprepared. Lily, a college classmate, dragged me to a gathering of rich second-generation kids. They were all sons and daughters of wealthy families. I didn't really want to go, but Lily was putting on makeup as she coaxed me, "You're really clueless." For gatherings like this, if it weren't for my rich boyfriend, we wouldn't even get in. I'll show you the world, getting a free meal isn't a loss, and who knows, with your looks you might hook up with a rich kid. Just come with me for a bit, please, please. Lily was my college roommate. Most classmates lost touch after graduation, but she and I have kept in contact. She was a bit flashy in her speech, but not a bad person. I couldn't shirk it, so I had to agree. When I pushed open the door and entered the club, luxury hit me like a wave. As Lily had said, this kind of place really wasn't somewhere ordinary people like us would come to spend money. But free food really wasn't bad. I thought that all the way until we reached the private room. The moment I pushed the door open, I saw Bella in the crowd. She had changed a lot since 7 years ago. The awkwardness of youth was gone, every gesture radiated elegant sensuality. I hadn't expected to run into her here again. Bella obviously hadn't expected it either. She even fumbled and knocked over her wine glass. The private room was lively. Lily pushed me in, and many people jeered, asking her to introduce me to others. Bella stared at me and smiled deliberately. An old classmate, I'm familiar with her. The jeering rose up in waves. A familiar face? Bella, hurry up and introduce her. We should really introduce her properly. Bella leaned back in her chair, thoughtful. We met each other's eyes across the crowd. She asked me, troubled, do you think I should introduce her by starting with you stealing my necklace, or with your name? After he said that, the hot private room fell instantly silent. The ringleader's smiles froze, and a few of them looked at me with a new, strange expression. Immediately, various stares and assessments settled on me. The scene from 7 years ago seemed to replay before my eyes. Bella still wore a smile. Lily flared up instantly, what are you talking about? Don't accuse someone lightly, Sarah isn't that kind of person. Bella looked at me. You ask her yourself. Her finger tapped the edge of the table in short, jittery beats, an obvious sign of agitation. My gaze fell on the empty seat beside her. The middle spot, probably the key player in this whole setup. It was clear Bella wanted me gone before that person arrived. I smiled at her, are you nervous? The smile in Bella's eyes faded in an instant. No matter whether it was 7 years ago or now, my answer won't change. Sarah, would never do something like that. And as for that bracelet 7 years ago. I studied her expression closely, do you really think I stole it? I didn't wait for Bella's answer. Because she didn't get the chance to speak. The private room door suddenly opened. Silence fell. Bella stared at the doorway, her expression turning ugly. I didn't turn my head, but I could feel a gaze pinpointedly fixed on me. I grabbed Lily and started to pull her outside. As we brushed past someone, a hand suddenly clamped onto my wrist. Not going to stay for a bite to eat before you leave? No. My fingers on my wrist tightened instinctively. Ethan seemed to chuckle. Don't you have anything to say to me? No. All right. Ethan released his grip. The private room door closed, and the corridor fell silent. I linked arms with Lily and kept walking forward. I reached the doorway when a sudden footstep sounded behind me. It's raining. Ethan caught up and grabbed my wrist again. I'll see you home. Lily peered outside, the ground was all wet. Sure enough, it was raining. The cool breeze made her shiver. I pulled my wrist free without looking at him. No need, I called a cab. Wait for me. Ethan didn't give me time to finish speaking. He opened his umbrella and stepped into the rain. Soon, a black Bentley slowly pulled up at the entrance. I sighed and finally looked up to meet his gaze. Ethan had shed the lazy boy he once was and transformed into a man with a composed, steady bearing. 7 years on, the small differences from our school days had only been blown up to an infinite scale. Just the watch on Ethan's wrist was worth more than most ordinary people could earn in many years. That kind of gulf couldn't be crossed just by studying hard and working relentlessly. I took a taxi, I repeated, tired. Ethan didn't answer. He opened the passenger door and stood by it, looking at me quietly. It was the look of someone who wouldn't give up until I got in the car. It's hard to believe that the person who once skipped classes for a week because he thought I embarrassed him would now, in front of everyone, be so adamant about escorting me home. We stood in a stalemate for a moment before the taxi I'd called arrived. Lily got in first. I had taken a step when Ethan suddenly stepped in front of me. "Did you forget?" he said softly, his expression finally serious as he looked at me. "Back then, we didn't break up. Those years." The phrase felt ancient. I sniffed in the cold and asked him earnestly, "So do you want me to fill in the gaps now?" Ethan froze in place, about to say something more, when Bella suddenly pushed the door open and walked out. Seeing Ethan and me, her face went pale for a moment. Bella walked over and, without showing any emotion, positioned herself between Ethan and me. "Ethan, everyone's waiting for you to talk about the marriage between our families." Bella's tone never changed when she spoke to Ethan. At the ends of her sentences there was always a hint of coquettishness. Ethan was stopped, and I took the chance to get in the car and close the door. Ethan seemed to say something to her, but locking the door shut sealed all sound outside. I pulled my gaze back and, in the quiet, let out a slightly mocking laugh. The car had just started moving when Lily, who'd been holding it in for a while, couldn't help but speak. "Sarah, this man is actually rich, everything on him could buy my life." Lily clearly hadn't heard the conversation between Ethan and me. She leaned over. "You two, what's going on?" "High school classmates." "Just classmates?" Lily looked skeptical. "Doesn't seem like it. Given the gap between us, what possibility do you think there is?" Somehow that hit a sore spot with Lily. She grew melancholy. "True enough, men who are rich and handsome have hearts full of holes like a pineapple. Look at my unreliable boyfriend." I complained a little, and he actually had the nerve to make me go home in the pouring rain. Even that complaint was put far too mildly. Earlier in the room, Lily was furious because I had roasted her wealthy second-generation boyfriend to a bloody pulp. I felt bad. "Let me take you out to eat these next couple of days. You pick the place. I need to think carefully about what I want." "All right, I'm here." Lily waved at me as she got out of the car. "See you next time, babe." The moment she left, the car fell suddenly silent. After a short while, it stopped at the entrance of a shabby residential complex. No sooner had I stepped out than a Bentley tore through the rain and came to a steady stop before me. The rain seemed heavier. The old complex's property management was poor. A broken street lamp flickered on and off in the downpour. I hadn't expected Ethan to follow. He held the umbrella over my head. The rain pattered on the canopy. It seemed that every time we confronted each other, Ethan and I were always in the rain. Ethan lowered his eyes to me and sighed softly. "Have you still not kicked the habit of forgetting an umbrella on rainy days?" My gaze fell on the right hand holding the umbrella. His middle finger was slightly bent, wearing a pretty, delicate couple's ring. It made that hand look exceptionally handsome. I stared for 2 seconds. For some reason, a calmness as if the dust had finally settled suddenly washed over me. "I'll remember next time," I told him. "So what did you come for?" "We haven't finished talking about us." Ethan was still fixated on breaking up. I laughed. "You followed me in the rain just to hear me say break up?" Ethan looked at me quietly. "Yes." "Fine, I didn't want to drag it out any longer." Just as I opened my mouth, Ethan suddenly grabbed me and started walking into the complex. "But I don't want to hear it now," he asked as we walked. "Which building do you live in?" "What do you think you're doing?" "Taking you home. You'll catch a cold if you get soaked." I stopped, snatched the umbrella away, and slammed it into the rain. Raindrops pattered onto me, quickly soaking my coat. At this moment I finally admitted that I wasn't as calm and carefree on the surface as I'd pretended. During the early days after transferring schools, every night I was trapped, struggling in that isolating, helpless agony. When I slept on the hospital's cold floor at night, the nightmares never ceased. I dreamed of Dad leaving me. I dreamed of Ethan standing unmoved as he watched me in the pouring rain. Ethan's mocking gaze always surfaced in my memories during quiet moments. I woke up drenched in sweat, and only when I could make out, in the faint light of the corridor, that the person in the hospital bed was all right did I finally exhale. After that, the version of me in the dream stopped crying. Later still, I stopped dreaming about Ethan altogether. I thought everything had faded with time, but in this moment I realized those feelings had only been hidden away. Don't tease me anymore, okay? I'm not. Ethan fell silent the moment our eyes met. He bent to pick up the umbrella, shook off the rain, placed it in my palm, then stepped back. The rain's getting heavier. Let's go home. I turned and walked back. The gaze behind me stayed fixed on me and never shifted. It wasn't until the door closed that I finally let out a breath. Halfway up the stairs, I suddenly felt something placed in my pocket. Using the dim light of the stairwell, I opened my palm and saw a lustrous ring lying there. It was the exact same design as the one on Ethan's hand. How did it get soaked like this? I sat on the sofa, watching my dad bustle around the living room. I fought back the sting in my nose and looked up at him with a smile. I was so happy about the bonus I slipped in the rain. How can you be so careless? Did you hurt yourself? And how many times have I told you, wear an extra layer when it's cold? Wait while I make some ginger tea, don't fall asleep. I flopped onto the sofa, drowsily feeling that my dad seemed even more fussy than before. I still had a fever. It lasted 2 days and a night. My father paced anxiously. I told him I'd be fine after a nap. When I came to, I found Lily already in my kitchen cooking. Beside her, a handsome young man with pleasing features was washing vegetables. I squinted to get a better look and saw that it was Lily's wealthy second-generation boyfriend. Are you two back together? Lily turned her head without answering me, sneering, you promised to treat me to a meal, and now you expect me to make the food and bring it to your bed. I looked at her with pleading eyes. Are you even any good at cooking? If you won't eat, then get out. Lily simply had no talent for cooking, and neither did her boyfriend who never lifted a finger. I took a bite and, in good taste, said nothing. Her boyfriend's name was Patrick, a year younger than Lily. This was the second time I had met him. He brought a lot of things. At a glance I saw they were all foods I love, a table piled high. Many of them were even things Lily didn't know about. I looked at those 3 iconic jars of canned yellow peaches and said nothing. Lily finished eating in a hurry and had to go to work. She didn't plan to stay. I stood by the door and called after Patrick. By the way, since you know each other, this is perfect, could you pass this on to him for me? What is this? Damn, it's so beautiful, so dazzling, so expensive. Lily covered her mouth theatrically. Patrick stared at the ring in his hand, stunned for a second. After he came to, he didn't deny it, but said something else, I'm just a gopher. You should return this to him in person. I pretended not to hear and handed it to him. In the end, Patrick still accepted it. They turned and walked down, Lily complaining about the lousy stairs as she asked him, what's going on, who are we handing it over to? But that ring is really beautiful. The voices faded. I leaned against the door, closed my eyes and breathed for a few seconds, then shut the door and went to sleep. The sky in my dreams is always gray. I'm wearing Ethan's school uniform, lying across his back, utterly weak. Ethan's voice is low, a little helpless. Do you really have to eat canned peaches? Yes, whenever I had a fever, my dad would buy me canned peaches to eat. Ethan looked down on things like that, but in the end he still ruffled my hair. Then wait for me here. I lounged on the ground, waiting and waiting, until finally Ethan returned stepping through the last light of sunset. He set down 10 heavy cans of peaches in front of me and asked, is this the kind? Not just canned food, but also a lot of expensive snacks and desserts that I usually wouldn't dare to even glance at. I was stunned for 2 seconds. How did you get so much? Ethan looked at me as if nothing unusual had happened. They were too cheap, so I grabbed a bit of each. Do you want to eat now? Ethan. You really are dumb. Open your mouth. A cold can was tossed into my mouth. I said, one can, just buy one from now on. Is one can enough for you? Ethan looked at the nearly empty tin and laughed at me without mercy. Better buy 3. I woke up to darkness. It had been raining continuously for days. Memories from the dream left me feeling unsettled. It had been a long time since I'd dreamed about the past with Ethan. The living room light was off, it was very quiet. My dad still hadn't come back. For some reason, my heart suddenly started pounding fast, beat after beat. I tipped back a little less than half a cup of hot water, feeling the warmth slide down my throat. But the sense of unease only grew stronger. I picked up my coat to get some fresh air and thought I might stop by the night market to find my dad. Just outside the gate of the compound, I saw that Bentley parked not far away. In this rundown neighborhood, you hardly ever see such a luxury car. Many passers-by couldn't help but take another look. The owner leaned against the car, his eyes and face soaked in the night's dampness. When he turned to look, his features gradually aligned with the Ethan in my memory. That ring, it's meant for you, he said, his voice a little muffled, as if he'd been standing out here for a long time. My family was indeed discussing a marriage alliance with Bella's family, but I didn't agree to it. After the bracelet incident, I wanted to resolve things quickly, but that week my family suddenly had an emergency. I was overwhelmed with busyness, and when I returned to school, I found you had already transferred. Sarah. I never intended to trick you. I didn't look at him, I tilted my head back and stared at the full moon hanging in the sky. After 2 seconds, I said softly, but you didn't believe me then either. You and the others suspected and mocked me. Ethan's figure blurred in the night breeze, his face turned pale and he offered no rebuttal. Actually, Bella was right. We've never been from the same world. You've been insisting you wanted to hear me say we should break up. Are you cold? As if anticipating what I was about to say next, Ethan cut me off awkwardly. There was a hint of sorrowful pleading in his eyes. I ignored him and slowly finished the second half of the sentence, but Ethan, we've long since broken up. If you've forgotten, I don't mind saying it again. Ethan's face went deathly pale in an instant. Sarah. He wanted to say more, but the ringing of a vibrating phone cut him off. My dad's call came through unexpectedly. But it wasn't his voice on the other end. The voice in the phone was panicked and urgent. Sarah, your dad's fried rice stall has been smashed up, you need to come right away. It was as if the sword that had been hanging over my heart finally came crashing down. The drunk who caused the trouble smashed up my dad's stall, and in the chaos my father was shoved to the ground. On the way to the hospital, the sharp smell of disinfectant hit me and for a moment I felt like I'd been transported back 7 years. The numb, burning sensation made me want to vomit. I squeezed my hands hard, digging my nails into my flesh to barely suppress the rising nausea. The next second, my fingers were wrenched open by Ethan. Sarah. Don't do this. Nothing's going to happen. Uncle has been doing well these past years, you just heard what the doctor said. His voice was soft, as if afraid of upsetting me further. I buried my head in my knees and said nothing. Luckily nothing serious happened. It didn't aggravate any old condition either. Just a sprained ankle. By the time the admission paperwork was done and everything settled, it was already late at night. I stood at the hospital entrance inhaling the cold air for a few minutes before I finally started to walk back. Ethan saw what I was about to do. Are you going home? I'll take you back. The neighborhood was really shabby, even the hallway lights flickered on and off. Distracted, I nearly missed a step several times, and Ethan, quick as lightning, reached out to steady me. His expression was hidden in the darkness. I heard his voice, a little hoarse. Have you always lived here? I didn't answer. I finished packing my father's things, and only then did we turn and head back to the hospital. Ethan didn't leave until dawn broke. Before leaving, we sat at a roadside breakfast stall and quietly ate a bowl of wonton soup. This time Ethan ate with a calmness, as if he could truly accept it. When we finished, Ethan lowered his eyes and said to me, I'll come over as soon as I'm done, call me if there's anything. You don't need to come, I said, finishing the last sip of soup. Everything's been said, let's end it here. Ethan's silhouette froze for a moment. He didn't say anything. After he left, I called Lily. This time I might need to trouble your boyfriend. Could you ask him where Bella was today? I took a taxi to a 5-star luxury hotel. When I pushed the door open, quite a few people were already seated. They were mostly high school classmates. My arrival froze the high school reunion for 2 seconds. Then it quickly burst back into life. Sarah? Class president? Why is she here? I don't remember inviting her. My gaze swept across the crowd and settled on Bella. Bella turned and looked at me, somewhat startled. Then she smiled again and asked innocently, "How do you have time to come to the party? Aren't you supposed to be at the hospital with your uncle, ah?" Her unfinished words were abruptly cut off by a scream. I grabbed a fistful of her hair and lowered my eyes to ask her, "Did you do it?" Bella went pale with pain, natural tears welled up and streamed down her face. I stared closely at her delicate, pretty face and repeated, "Was it you who did that to my dad?" The private room fell silent, everyone looked at one another, with only Bella's sobbing remaining. I kicked open the restroom door and pressed Bella down onto the sink. The cold water pouring from the tap made Bella's screams even sharper. I looked at her coldly. "Back then I accepted Ethan's confession, and you staged that bracelet incident to push me out. Now you're using my father to warn me." "Bella." I said her name aloud, feeling the hatred in my chest rising. I grabbed her hair and forced her to look at me, speaking softly, "I have nothing, only my father. I don't want to fight you over anything, I just want to live. But if anything happens to my father again, then I'll have no choice but to go all out against you." Bella just kept crying. She probably had never been treated like this before, her makeup was streaked from tears, and she looked at me, disheveled and wary. But from beginning to end, she never once denied it. On the way to find Bella, I thought a lot. Back then, we never found the person who stole the bracelet. And 7 years later, the usually quiet night market stall, soon after encountering Bella, ran into a drunken troublemaker who smashed only my father's fried rice stall. At first I only had doubts, but when I saw that smile on Bella's face, I was almost instantly certain. All eyes in the private room fell on Bella. Confusion. Shock. Disbelief. No one had expected that gentle, pretty Bella would do something so slanderous and isolating behind someone's back. So, the bracelet incident back then was all Bella directing and acting out herself? The class monitor was completely framed? Back then, it seemed she was even the one who led the search of the monitor's school bag. The quiet in the private room gradually shifted into hushed whispers. Eventually it exploded. All the trivial details in the memories were dredged up, every sentence stabbed painfully into Bella's ears. I felt countless gazes fall on me. But they were no longer the looks of disgust from back then. After a long stalemate, the boy who used to shove his wallet into his desk whenever he saw me suddenly lowered his voice and, very quietly, said sorry to me. 7 years later, it felt as if Bella and I had switched places in that instant. I don't know exactly how I left the hotel. I only remember the sunlight outside was blinding. I squinted and looked up for a long time before slowly pulling my gaze back. On the way back to the hospital, I bought the candied chestnuts my father loves. Ethan came again. I paused at the hospital room door and heard my father speak to Ethan. He said, "Thank you for running around helping me so late at night." Ethan had brought lunch, he lowered his eyes and quietly set it out. My father smiled, took a few bites, and as if remembering something else, said to Ethan, "Thank you for the money you lent us back then. With that cash flow we weren't in such dire straits after moving cities. Sarah used to talk about you a lot, though it seems you two haven't been in touch much since." My father talked to himself, and only when he finished did he notice something was wrong. He looked up and saw Ethan's face, which had turned extremely ugly. "What's wrong with you?" Ethan's gaze dropped onto my father bit by bit. His Adam's apple bobbed, in a strained voice he said, "What money?" When Ethan left, his expression was dazed. He didn't see me standing around the corner. I entered the hospital room with my usual calm, and peeled a sugar-roasted chestnut for my father. Is it good? Sweet, tasty. I froze for a few seconds, then my dad spoke again. Why did Ethan look so upset just now? He seemed like he didn't remember lending us that money. The fingers peeling the chestnuts paused. A few quiet seconds. I said softly, I don't know either. Maybe it's been too long and he forgot. That evening the last rain of autumn fell. Ethan brought dinner over. My father noticed Ethan still looked troubled and didn't say much. Ethan kept his eyes down and didn't look at me. After a quiet dinner, Ethan only spoke to me after leaving the hallway. He said the troublemakers had been dealt with, and that he'd seen a rental he liked over the past few days and thought it was suitable. He asked me to find time to move out of that old housing complex. I looked at him quietly for 2 seconds and asked, "Don't lie to me, this is really a rental, right?" Ethan didn't say a word. I felt a bit stifled and pushed open the hallway window. A blast of cold wind rushed in. Actually, my cold still wasn't really gone, my nose was stuffy and it felt a little uncomfortable. I cleared my throat and coughed twice, then said, "Ethan, 7 years is actually a long time. What you're feeling now is just a momentary unwillingness after our reunion." "That's not it." Ethan suddenly cut me off, his voice was low. "I'm not unwilling. I can tell whether I like someone or not. After you transferred, I looked for you for many years. The day we met again, when I pushed the door open and saw you, I don't know how happy I was. I was afraid it was a dream. I never thought about breaking up. Back then, and now, neither. The fact that Bella gave you the money, I didn't know about it, and I wouldn't do that." Ethan began, then stopped, staring into my eyes as if a realization hit him. "You knew all along that the money wasn't from me, didn't you? Does it matter?" I drew in a cold breath and said slowly, "Didn't you also notice something off about the bracelet? Yet you instinctively chose to believe Bella wouldn't lie." The color drained from Ethan's face. He tried to say something, opened his mouth, but in the end nothing came out. Perhaps Ethan finally realized that between us it wasn't a misunderstanding that could be cleared up with an explanation and then patched back together. When Ethan spoke again, his voice was very low. "I was indeed wrong about what happened back then. But I've really been trying to change all these years. Sarah," his voice thickened, "can we not break up, please?" Maybe the wind was just too cold. It made my eyes sting terribly. I felt so tired. I looked up at Ethan and asked him softly, "Ethan, can you let me go? I really can't stand your rich kid theatrics. I just want to live a peaceful life." The afterglow of the sunset slowly faded away, and the corridor grew dark. Ethan stood silently where he was, his eyes rimmed red as he looked at me for a long time. Finally, he closed his eyes and exhaled a single fine. After that day, Ethan seemed to have disappeared. My father gradually recovered as well and was able to walk on his own again. On that winter day I received a promotion, and my father and I huddled together to eat hot pot. Everything was moving toward stability and smoothness. On New Year's Eve, Ethan sent a text, "Can we meet? One last time." In the thick falling snow, Ethan stood in the snow waiting for me. Ethan's voice was so soft it felt as if snow could melt together. "Happy New Year, make a wish." On New Year's Eve in high school, Ethan had also run over to make me wish. He said wishes on New Year's Eve were most effective. I closed my eyes and wished that my father and I would be safe and well. When I opened my eyes, I saw Ethan watching me without moving. That quiet gaze was brushed with a layer of brightness by the fireworks on the horizon. A New Year's gift. He handed me a box, and before I could refuse he added, "It's not anything expensive. Just take it." I thought for a second and shook my head. "No, it's better not." The light in Ethan's eyes dimmed. I breathed out a warm puff and, with nothing more to say, "It's too cold. Let's say goodbye here." Ethan seemed about to say something, but seeing my face reddened by the cold, he nodded again. "Go home quickly." I turned and began to walk back. In the wind and snow, I thought I heard Ethan softly say Happy New Year behind me. I left like the torrential rain 7 years ago. I didn't look back again. When I went with my dad for his hospital follow-up, I saw Bella. She seemed to have lost a little weight during our time apart. Her wrists and arms were wrapped in bandages. She appeared to be talking to someone on the phone, her voice a little choked. So Ethan, does that mean we can't even be friends? I couldn't hear what was said on the phone, but Bella went pale and slammed the handset to the ground. The crowd was noisy. By the time I finished paying and went to look again, Bella had already left. When I got home, Lily arrived with Patrick, using the excuse of celebrating my father's recovery to drop in for a meal. My eyes immediately fell on the diamond ring on her finger. Just like the way she described Ethan's that day, it was dazzling and arresting. I laughed at her, and Lily covered my eyes to stop me from looking. By the way, I still don't know how you two patched things up back then. Didn't you say your little boyfriend left you in the pouring rain? Lily brought it up with a bit of exasperation. That idiot had food poisoning and ran to the bathroom, couldn't catch up. After a while of joking, she asked me, do you know? Bella and Ethan were both in car accidents, one after the other, right on the second day of the new year. They're still in the hospital. I think I not only knew it, I saw it with my own eyes. Lily didn't wait for me to speak, she quickly changed the subject. I peeled a slice of tangerine and popped it into my mouth, looking out the window. It was a sunny day. My father's voice came from the kitchen, dinner's ready. Lily ran faster than a rabbit when she heard that, shouting to Patrick as she ran, quick. Stop her, she's trying to snatch my chicken wings. Patrick sat on the sofa as if he hadn't heard, but casually stretched out a long leg in the path to the kitchen as I dashed by. 2 against 1 bullying me. Lily, you don't have any red envelopes this year. What? Lily spun around and screamed, no.